Hey everybody, welcome back to the Geek Bait podcast, and I shall address that part in a moment. But first of all, this is episode 4, and in episode 4 we thought it would be a great way to kick off 2025 by doing an Ask Me Anything. So first of all, let me bring my hosts into the talk. Let me go to Chef first. Hello Chef, how are you today?
I'm very well, sir. How are you?
Very good, mate. Happy New Year. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Is it too late for that? 21st of January, I think we're okay, you know. Sneak it in there. Yeah, everything going okay? Good start to the year?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Looking forward to the retro goodness for the rest of the year. Lots of stuff going on, as we all know, so all good. Looking forward to it, sir.
Good stuff, good stuff. And of course, I'll jump over to our other host, Nerdy Geezer. Lee, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. All I can hear at the moment is my boy throwing darts at his new dartboard. That's all I can hear.
A Christmas present, I believe, yeah?
No, actually, well, kind of. He paid for it himself, so he had some
nice.
Christmas money and that, so kind of, I suppose.
Cool.
But yeah, inspired by Luke Littler, so yes, it's one of his. So
Fantastic.
Yeah. That was very good, wasn't it, with the darts? I don't often watch the darts, but I did watch that because I thought that was worth seeing. It was a very, very good game. Yeah, excellent. Right, so I'll address the first topic, which is when I welcomed you to this new podcast, I did call it Geek Bait. And the reason for that is collectively we've decided that the Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, or the Nerd, the Chef and the Hobby Lodge was too much of a mouthful to basically get out anytime someone asked what our podcast was called. In fact, I could half the time not remember in which order I said it, and I may have even got it just wrong then, I don't know. But it was getting to the point where it was very difficult to tell people what our podcast was called. So we sat together, we kind of went over how many names, guys? Like 100 different names we went through.
probably, yeah, there was a few, wasn't there?
But we eventually got down to Geek Bait as our name, and the reason for Geek Bait is, one, we are a bunch of geeks. You know, there's other words. There's nerds. There's, I won't say losers, but definitely geeks and nerds. What other names are out there? And then bait was, hopefully we're hooking you in with our podcast. That's what we want. We want to get you guys into our podcast to talk about all the nerdy things that we love about the hobbies that we have. And therefore Geek Bait felt like a really cool, sharp and snappy name for our podcast. So going forward, wherever you are listening to this podcast, it will be called Geek Bait. You can still search the old time and it will bring up this, but in most places, hopefully you'll see the new name represented. And welcome to Geek Bait episode 4. Any thoughts on that, guys? Happy with the name?
Yes. I did want to add actually on what you said about different names for geeks, nerds, etc. Did you know a lot of the youth of today call them neeks? Did you know that?
Neeks?
Yeah. I've heard my boys say it a lot. And it's just basically a combination of nerd and geek. They call them neeks now.
Neeks. So what you're saying is we've missed the youth. We should have changed the name to be Neekcast or Neek Bait, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. I don't think that'll hang around long, do you?
No. We don't want the youth anyway, do we? I mean, no youth wants to listen to us today, let's be frank.
I don't know, they can't see us, so they don't know how old we are.
This is true. We sound very youthful. Exactly.
Or how attractive we are. Just to throw out there. No, I'm being honest. You know,
there might be ladies out there interested in you, Chef. You know, a man that can cook.
Or men. It's 2025.
I mean, each to their own. It's 2025, absolutely.
So
let's jump into this episode then. This episode is going to be a Ask Me Anything episode. So over the past, I think 3-4 weeks, we kind of put out various posts, whether it was on social media or on our YouTube channels or wherever it might have been, asking people that listen to us, watch our videos, interact with us in social media to ask some questions that they might want to ask. So we had about, I think, nearly 30 questions come in. So we're going to just go through them and hopefully give some nice, honest answers. Don't think any of us have really looked at the questions. I've seen them come in, but I haven't really seen them. So I haven't had time to read them, obviously. But I think our answers should be quite fresh after being asked. So, let's just jump into it and crack on. So the first question is from Retro Ed UK. And the first 3 questions are actually aimed at different people, which is quite nice. So the first one is for you, Chef. And the first one says, any recommendations for someone who's keen to get into comics? What would you say to that individual?
Firstly, thank you, Ed, for taking the time to participate in this monumentous event of the Q&A for Geekbait 2025. I just want to get it out there. And the second thing is just go and watch Nerdy Geezer's channel for comics. He will guide you in the right way. Wow. So it seems to be, and Lee Geezer will agree with me with this. We're getting a lot of rehashes, a lot of we've had the Batman 89s coming to fruition, which is an old telling of a story. We're getting DC versus vampires. We're getting lots of old nostalgic foes, if you will, come back into the fold. So I think for myself, I'm looking over some of the 80s comics that have been, or 80s cartoons that have been made into comics with the last couple of years. We had lots of Transformers stuff. There's even Star Trek comics and, Terminator comics. But you can't go wrong with a bit of Spider-Man. So I would, any avid reader of comics who's trying to get into it is to look along Spider-Man, because we've got different universes now with the movies and stuff. And we've got Miles Morales and we've got Ben Reilly and we've got the different Peter Parker. So I would say for me is to get into a little bit of Spider-Man and also look at some of the DC rehashes of the old tellings of stories. I would say is probably a good start in 2025.
Can I just add something on that?
Sure.
What I would suggest also is go for graphic novels, because then you haven't got to try and track down all these individual comics.
Yep.
If you're new and coming into it, when you buy a graphic novel or what they also call a trade paperback, you basically get that entire story, that whole run in that one book. So it just makes it a lot easier for you to get the whole thing in one go and just read it all in one go.
Yeah.
Especially like, for example, I mean, my favorites, what got me into Batman was the Nightfall series. I mean, that's a good series to go for.
It's a great series.
3 books, 3 graphic novels, and that's it. You got the whole run.
The question I would add to this, because I'm interested in your answer, is do you have to start at issue 1, or can you start along? Because some comics may be hundreds of issues. Can you start at different sections? Is there beginnings and ends and middle stories and stuff? How do you get into comics in the first place?
Well, that'd be difficult because, it depends what number 1 you're going for and what series. There's like Batman. There's hundreds of series, so so that's why I say graphic novels are probably better, right, Chef? Because
that's true. Novels a good way. I mean, that's why Spider-Man's so good, Martin, because they're not all connected each episode. Believe it or not, they're not all on the line. If they start to do a continuation story, it goes from Amazing Spider-Man, which is the original storytelling. It goes to Spectacular Spider-Man. It goes over to Web of Spider-Man. There's different ones. So sometimes you'll get a run of 6 comics, might be 2 in Amazing Spider-Man, 2 in Web, and 2 in Spectacular. So therefore, 666, 667 is the story, but then 668 is a completely different story. It's not exactly this, but then sometimes they do go on for some time. Nightfall went on for 20 episodes over detective comic, over the normal Batman story, and one other I can't remember now. But it went over a selection of Batman comics rather than just one continuation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Right. Lee, your question from Retroed, still in the realms of superheroes, was what's your thoughts on the new Superman movie? And I guess I'll add to that, like, what's your hopes for it as well? Like, initial thoughts and hopes for it.
Right. So if I was to go with my very first thought was I hate that suit. I don't like the new suit. I know what they were going for, though. I know what James Gunn's thinking. He's basically copied the logo from Kingdom Come, and going back to the comic question a minute ago for Ed, that's a good graphic novel to get.
Yeah.
Like, without giving too much away, it's kind of set in the future. Some of our heroes that we already know have retired and have to come back to save the world once again, sort of thing. So anyway, going back to what I was saying, was the logo on the chest, for example, of Superman for that new film is based on the Kingdom Come, but it's not red and black, it's yellow and red, kind of like the Christopher Reeves version. So they tried to mesh the two. He's got the shorts back. So I'm not a fan of the suit completely. I like the fact that it's the red cape with the Superman logo on the back. I always was a fan of that look on the cape. The red boots again, and there was a stage where I didn't like the shorts, but I now am I quite like the shorts actually again. But I suppose what I'm thinking is what I want to see is a good, realistic version of Superman. Like, and when I say realistic, I mean as in like not like Man of Steel in the fact of like, well, we're going to level an entire city in a film, you know, and then have a little scrap in the ashes of what's left, like you know, and then it goes into Batman versus Superman, and that's all kinds of wrong, you know. So I don't want to see that. What I want to see is maybe something a little bit more akin to the Christopher Reeve Superman, but not all of them, because we know 3 and 4 weren't that great. 1 and 2 were great. So, you know, I want to kind of see something like that. And also I'm hoping, and Chef will back me up with this, one of the things with Superman that you realise reading the comics is that he very much is an American. Although he wasn't born there, that is how he sees himself as an American, right?
Yeah.
And obviously in recent stuff, we always get this like sort of dull look at Superman, people treat him badly. He's not allowed to be, you know, the patriotic person that his character actually should be. So I guess what I'd like to see is something more akin to the comics, where he's proud of where he grew up, you know?
Yeah.
You know, something more accurate to the comic, really. That's what I want to see. Because although I liked what's his face as Superman, because he was pretty good.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah. Although I liked him as Superman, I wasn't really a fan of the films that much. Like there was bits of the first one I liked, the second one I couldn't stand. So, but overall, I thought he was a good Superman. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the new guy. He looks quite a bit like Henry Cavill as well. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I think he looks the part. I mean, I think all the Supermans have kind of looked like Superman within certain degrees. You know, I think you kind of have to nail that look, don't you? Really, and I think he looks like him. I don't know about his Clark Kent, because Clark Kent seems he's quite a big guy, isn't he? By the looks of it, just from the glimpse I saw. So his Clark Kent looks pretty hench, like, and that's maybe I don't know if that works or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought he looked like David Thingy from the It Crowd. You know
that's true. Yeah, he does.
I forgot his name. I'm so sorry.
His hair,
because of his hair and the glasses.
The IT crowd, yeah. IT
I was like,
crowd.
it's the IT crowd. I was like, when did he become Superman?
I'll be honest, that was my thoughts as well, and I've seen loads of people comment on the internet saying exactly the same thing. So it's not just us.
Just very quickly, Lee, was you happy to see the dog, or would you rather not see the dog?
Oh, I'd rather not see the dog. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, there are silly things in the comics, but you can kind of let it go because it's a comic, right? I mean, ultimately, also, these comics, let's not forget, originally were intended for kids, right? So it's only as we've got older that we still read these things. So you could forgive it in a comic, you know? It's a silly idea, a dumb idea, and let's be honest, when it comes to Superman, I mean, Superman's probably the worst for silly ideas in comics.
Yeah.
They've done so many silly things, right, over the years. But to stick in a film, no, I don't like that. You know, when I was watching that trailer and I see Crypto turn out, I was like, oh my God, what have you done? What are you doing? You know, and it's like,
I think it's going to be hard to pull off well, isn't it? Because it's either going to look like dodgy CGI, which we know they've had in DC movies, very dodgy CGI, or I just think it's going to be very difficult to pull off well. I think in a one-off scene, if that's like a one-off scene where they just do it and it's like a throwaway cameo or something, but if he's going to appear throughout the movie,
I was waiting to hear The Rock's voice, because The Rock did the voice, did he not, in the Superman Pets film with Keanu Reeves doing the Batman dog? What was that? Super Pets or some cartoon or movie? I thought it might be The Rock.
I didn't watch it.
No, I didn't watch it, mate.
I don't believe you for a second.
Right.
Voice.
The next question was to me from Retro Educate. So again, as Lee said, it's great that people have got involved. So I'm going to say, without saying to every single person that says I send it, thank you to everyone that sent a message in. But his question to me was there any tabletop games I was looking forward to in 2025? Which is really hard to answer because it's not there's going to be so many. There's going to be so many. But there is a game that I have on the table behind me right now called Super Fantasy Brawl, which I've painted up and played a few times. And I've played it on stream, actually, with me and James. And they're bringing out a new version of that. And they're actually bringing out new heroes for it. And they're actually bringing out the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as heroes for the game. So I think that's going to be quite exciting to see where that game goes and how they. So essentially, what the game is, it's an arena battler. So at the beginning of the game, you draft your team of heroes. You have 3 heroes, and you go back and forth drafting. So a bit like in a video game where you like ban certain characters and then you claim your character. So then you have, once you've got your 3 heroes, you then battle it out against each other in an arena, and you try and achieve objectives like maybe who's controlling the blue zone or kill this number of enemies. And when you die, you respawn and you're playing cards and you're battling away. So it'll actually work with like Hero Turtles quite well, because you can have a team of heroes of turtles if you wanted to. But it's a really cool little slick game that I've played a lot of. There's actually an online version. There's a video game version of it you can play as well. So yeah, that is having a new release this year with a new rule set. So it'll be interesting to see how they potentially slicken that up and make it work better. How do they incorporate potentially these Hero Turtles, which I've seen the models of. It looks really cool. So yeah, that's probably my answer for that is Super Fantasy Brawl. So if you've not seen it, you can play it physically as a board game, and it's definitely worth taking a look at. And you can play it digitally as well. So if you were to Google it, you'll certainly find it. It's worth checking it out.
No mentions of Monopoly, Martin, or Game of Life?
No, I'm not. I'm not a Monopoly fan. Yeah. I'm afraid Monopoly would not make it on my list of great board games.
Not even the Kent edition.
Not even the Kent edition, mate. No. Right. The next question is from OG Duffy. And OG Duffy wanted to ask all of us, what are our collecting goals? He doesn't specify, so I'm going to say to 2025. What are our collecting goals for 2025? Let's go to Lee Nerdy Geezer first.
I suppose my one's kind of a bit boring because I've already said it on my channel, haven't I, recently? But I'm looking at more cartridge-based collecting moving forwards. I suddenly realised that a lot of disc-based systems, that I've got other ways of playing them. And I, recently, as I said to you guys, when I was sorting out some of the collection, I found quite a few games that I'd put aside in storage that I forgot were even there. So it's like, yeah, I'd much rather fill that space with something that will last, but also something that I've got huge nostalgia for. And that would be mainly Mega Drive, if I'm honest. But I've been picking up some pretty good Master System recently, and obviously, you've got SNES as well. So yeah, with SNES it'd be a little different. I'd be probably more inclined to get just cartridge though. I've got quite a few. I haven't got loads of SNES, but I've got quite a few of the the titles that everybody seems to have, but I haven't got some of the more expensive ones, if you like. So yeah, I mean, for example, I spotted one the other day. I wouldn't say this is expensive, but I spotted a shooter the other day that I haven't got for the SNES. What's it called? Something Striker. I forget what it's called now off the top of my head. But I saw that on CX. I was like, oh, that'll have to go in my basket, I think. So yeah, I don't know what it is, especially with the Mega Drive. I don't know what it is. It's just the feel of the box, the manual. Obviously, that was my first console I had growing up. So, and I paid for that myself. The first one I had, I paid for a paper round. It was a Japanese Mega Drive. So it's always special, like the Commodore 64 was for me as well. So yeah, I think it's now become like, I mean, it always has been nostalgia, but I think more so now than it has been. So yeah.
I think that makes complete sense, Lee, because I find it hard to be nostalgic about a CD-based game. Like a cartridge, a Game Gear cartridge, a Game Boy cartridge, an N64 cartridge, a Super Nintendo cartridge. They're all so unique, and they all have a different feel. And like you instantly connect. Again, because I'm a very tactile person in that respect, that connection to the cartridge is huge. Whereas CD, it's a CD, right? How much more connection can you have with it? So I love that the focus more on the cartridge stuff. What about you, Chef?
I like to collect a games room, if that's possible.
We all want that.
Massively this year. I want to try and sort something out for that. That is the plan. I'm collecting things, bits and pieces slowly as we go along this year. Nothing crazy. I haven't really in this year. I haven't really thought, oh, I want to get A, B, and C. I just want to get the games room sorted, get that together, and then I can work out. Maybe I wouldn't say maybe next year work out a better plan of action. But yeah, games room, and then we can go from there. I would say.
Fair enough. Yeah. The Retro Chef's Games Room 2025. Watch this space. It's going to happen.
Yes. The dig starts soon.
You can blog the whole thing. You can vlog it. You can go
I'm
vlog
gonna
style
vlog
with
it,
us.
yes.
The weekly chef vlog.
Yes.
I was going to say chef log then, but that's something completely different. I don't know what that is.
That's a different stream. That's
No.
the OF account. Lee knows about that one.
What do I know about it?
I think for myself, collecting goals is interesting because I don't think I have, like, I've collected enough. It's kind of where I feel like I'm at, right? Like, I look around this room and I have so many board games, video games, tabletop war games that I could ever want to play or need. So this year for me is actually much more about enjoying what I have. So rather than collecting, I want to play. Like, I want to play the games. I want to go through all the miniature games I have, all the board games I have, all the Commodore 64 collection, the Amiga collection. It doesn't mean I won't pick things up. I won't collect more because I think it's inevitable. You know, I'm going to go to Adepticon in a few months' time. I'm bound to bring a bunch of games back from the US and stuff that I've never seen and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I wouldn't, but definitely I want to enjoy what I have. Because I think otherwise you could get into a danger where maybe you don't have the time you think you might have to play some of these things, and you never get around to it, right? There's always that list of, I wish I'd played that, or I want to have a go at this, or I want to paint that, build that, play this, and you always put it on the never, and it never actually happens. So, yeah, I think I'm not going to be collecting the randoms anymore. Like, really, for me, it is the Commodore 64, the Amiga, the Super Nintendo, the Game Gear, and that's probably where my focus will be. And of course, the homebrew scene. So, on all of those and more.
Martin, I'm just putting it out there. I heard a horrible rumor that there might be a arcade diorama set, maybe
Well, this
in
is
the pipeline.
true.
No, I've just heard a rumor.
Yeah, so that's maybe the only thing I collect. My other collecting goal will be the micro arcades to create my miniature arcade scene, which I think will be really cool. So yes, I suppose maybe by the end of the year I'd like to have 8 or 9 little mini arcades. Yeah, go on, Lee, jump in.
Yeah, sorry, I just remembered the name of that game I was talking about. Super Strike Gunner for the SNES.
Super Strike Gunner.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was it. I was trying to remember the name of it, and I just checked. Yeah, that was the game I was on about. Just random, I know. It's just that I was trying to remember the name of it earlier.
Jumped
It's
into
a
your head.
shooter.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be me, I think. Right. The next one up is actually to all of us, so we can all have a chance to answer this. And this is from Retro Rummage, and he or they say, I don't actually know Retro Rummage.
It's
If
Mitch,
you could,
very nice guy.
if you could,
Essex-based YouTuber.
if you could complete a game again for the first time, and I love this question because what would it be? So a game that you completed that you'd love to complete again for the first time. This time, I think I went to you last time, Lee. I'll go to you, Chef, this time.
Wow, this is such a cool, tough question from Mitch. Wow. I'm gonna say, do you know the first time I played Resident Evil on a PlayStation 1, and because the front cover doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
The front cover has got Stallone, as I shared with Lily the other day from Judge Dredd, that famous picture holding the gun when I shared with you. That scene where you walk in the corridor and there's zombies on the floor eating your friend, and as it turns around, you see it's a bloody zombie for the first time. And I would say that game, because you had the dynamics of you've lost your friend or lost a friend. You're in this mansion. You've got to I'm trying to think now. Take the tiger's eyes, change the tiger's eyes, the blue diamond, the red diamond. Put the picture frames, lights on from new to old of age, and you got all do all these puzzles. And then there's zombies, and there's like hunter, alligator, crocodile thingy hunters, and then there's the tyrant. Yeah, that game. Yeah, that game was a 3-hour long game. We had that conversation not too long ago, us lot, and that game just took over weeks of my life to make sure I could not only get all the guns and get all the outfits and the malarkey, but get away with the best ending being with all the characters or vice versa. So most people probably say, oh, Zelda and that, but I'm going to say Resident Evil because I think I would have been old enough to kind of really understand what was going on rather than playing Zelda or like on the SNES. I loved it to pieces, but I never really 100% it. Whereas on with Resident Evil, I went out my way to clock it under 3 hours to get the extra stuff, you know. So I'm going to say Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1 is one I'd like to really.
A great choice. Lee.
I think I'm gonna have to pick a series because I could probably play either one of these again, like, you know.
I think that's cheating, but okay, go on.
Well, the only reason I say that is because one's retro and one's new.
Oh,
so this is why I say it, right? And that's the Streets of Rage series.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I mean, as you know, I love my beat 'em ups, and if I could play one of them again and not know what happens and play one again, it's very difficult for me to choose because one's the most nostalgic, first one I played. Second one's definitely the best one out of the first three.
Yeah.
But then you've got the modern version, Streets of Rage 4, which is superb. So it's like, man, which one do you pick? And at the end of the day, I can't pick. So it's easier just to say a series. I've done a chef on that one. But
I think that's forgivable. That's forgivable.
Streets of Rage is the one for me for sure.
Good choice, mate. Good choice.
Yes, great choice. There is always one game that pops into my head whenever this gets asked. It's been asked a few times, and I can't even say if it's retro. I think it is, but it's late. It's a. If you're a console gamer, it's a PS3 game, but I know it from the PC when I played it, and that game is BioShock. And the reason why I say BioShock is because the first time I played that game, you think you're in an FMV. You think you're still watching a video. Like your plane crashes into the sea and you're floating in the sea with fire around you and your plane is sinking into the sea. And the first time I played that, I didn't move because I thought I was still watching the video of the game. And I was like, this is taking forever. Like I'm just sitting here watching my plane. And then I moved my mouse and the character moved. And I was like, oh wow, I'm in the game. And like you swim off to this lighthouse and you go off on this adventure. And then the first time you meet like the crazies, or whatever they're called, the splicers and stuff, and there's a scene where she's talking to a baby in a pushchair, and all you see is the shadow on the wall of what's happening. And when you turn the corner, you see it's like she's a complete crazy person who comes running at you and tries to murder you. So there's great scenes throughout the game, and then there's a twist at the end of the game, and I was completely caught out by it. Like it was like one of those moments when the twist happened. If you've not played the game all the way through, I'm definitely not going to spoil it, show because it's a current day game. You could play it now and you wouldn't think it's old or new, but it is definitely. It must be this. Yeah. It must be 20 years old at this time. I don't know when it came out, but 2005 is probably roughly when it came out. But the twist in it is fantastic. And you know the second one is a bit of a letdown. The third one's pretty good. But the first one is a game that, if I could get to play it again and have those same experience I had when I played it, that would be awesome. Because obviously the second time you play it, you know the twist, you know the scenes that are kind of come up, and you kind of go, oh yeah, it's still really good. But it's that first time of playing it through that for me was just fantastic. And it's the game that always. There are others I could definitely talk about. When that question comes up, that's the first one that pops into my head. BioShock pops into my head every time. As a really classic game. Yes. Okay, right. The next question then. Actually, Rock and Roller RC asked 3 questions. Very, very greedy. And I think we'll indulge, so it's fine.
Oh, Trevor.
I know.
Yeah, Trevor asked some good questions actually. Give him his dues. He's normally pretty good at this.
Yeah. So the first one was. Do you prefer VHS, DVD, or Blu-ray? And I guess we could throw on the end of that 4K as well. So if you're collecting...
Laserdisc?
No,
No, no.
go on then. We could chuck laser. Why not? It's a medium. Absolutely. Chuck Laserdisc in there as well. What's your medium of choice, Lee? We come to you this time. What's your medium of choice if you have the choice?
It kind of depends, I suppose, because if it's a disc based, then I would always go 4K or Blu-ray. I mean, either one works for me because they're both good. You know, I always say Blu-ray's good enough, but if you can get 4K at a reasonable price, why not? You know. But that depends on if it's disc based or whether you want to go for a retro feel. If you're in for a,
Mm.
a retro feel, then you bung a VHS on, don't you? I tend to only collect VHS of films that aren't out on disc. So I suppose that's where it differs for me. If it's not on disc, then I watch it on VHS. Otherwise, it's disc. So yeah, easy one for me.
And you've definitely been, I think, an advocate for 4K, right? You're the kind of person that will tell me even this is worth checking out on 4K. The up jump in quality is worth it. The sound, all of those things. I think I would agree that you're probably much more moving towards that. I want the quality of the 4K if I can get it. You know.
Yeah.
Go on, Chef. Is it just Laserdisc for you?
It's been Laserdisc of late, as you know. I wouldn't have to say 4K with Lee because there's some real nice transfers, upgrades, whatever you want to say. There's some great ones. I think there's some real nice 4Ks out there that do some classic films justice. There are a few rubbish ones, but majority, I would say, 4K. I love, at the minute, Laserdisc is just, I'm just buying so many, but VHSs as well. But I think 4K, just especially with a modern TV and a good surround sound system, I think you're laughing, really.
Yeah. I would love to say VHS, but the reality is I've been stung now a couple of times with VHS, and by that I mean I put it in the player, I hit rewind, I press play, you get a horrible noise, you try and eject your tape, and my copy of Warriors was chewed up by my cassette player, and again, because of the type of person I am, that ceremony of getting the cassette out, putting it in, even rewinding it to me, the noise it makes, all these little things, the fuzzy lines as the tracking kicks in, all this sort of stuff, and even the graininess of it, that reminds me of watching TV when I was a kid, right? But the reality is, the risk is so great to you losing that tape, and they are far harder to find now in especially the rarer films. That I will just probably, and this is probably even worse, guys, probably I'll watch it digitally. It's probably the way I've mostly watched things, and then if it's a special film to me, like recently I picked up the Lord of the Rings box set and stuff like that, then I'll get that on 4K because I want to own it in its best possible quality. But I'm afraid for ease, I'm probably trying to watch it digitally on a platform or something,
I'm hearing streaming platforms. I'm switching off.
I know. But that comes down to that kind of ease thing, right? It's like I'm sat in front of monitors rather than TV, so for me to get something on here, it's just easy for me to go Google it, watch it, off you go, sort of thing. So But it's certainly that's not a way to collect them, and for special films, definitely, I'd love to get the 4K versions, or the Blu-ray versions, depending on what you tell me to get when I ask you what's this best on.
Well, I don't know. I think I already said this to you guys, but if you've not got Lost Boys on 4K, I would definitely recommend that.
There you go.
Like when I watched that, you can hear stuff in the background and that you don't notice on the other versions.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, that's how much the sound's improved on it. And I thought the picture quality was great. It's really good, very colourful.
Nice. Yeah, it's one I definitely need to pick up. There's a recommendation, everyone, there from Lee. Although, can you buy it not before, after I've bought it so it doesn't run out of stock anyway? If you do listen to this, give it a couple of days, let me get a copy.
The other bonus is it's in one of them thinner cases as well, so it takes up less room as well, so it's even better.
Nice. Right, the next question was, again, from Rock and Roller RC. Do you ever buy stuff, games, comics just to collect and never use and read, and may even leave sealed? So I'll answer first because I've been around the room. My answer to that is no. Like, I don't think there's anything I've ever bought where I haven't cracked it open and used it, played with it, painted it, built it, whatever it might be, but like games, board games, video games, the whole lot. I've even had some old Commodore 64 stuff that was sealed, and I've opened it because I want to use it, I want to play it. I feel it's almost a shame to leave things sealed up, to be honest. So that's my really quick answer to that is no. Everything in this lodge there's nothing in here that I'm keeping preserved, as it were. So yeah, I use everything. Lee, what about yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, this one's a bit of a tricky one, actually, because initially I was going to say no, and then I suddenly realised, hang on a minute, I do leave something sealed. So, for example, I found a copy of Small Soldiers on the PlayStation 1, still sealed. There's no way I was opening that, because I thought, like, what's the chances you're going to find a PlayStation 1 game still sealed? So I kept it that way. So I did the same with a first edition of a Spider-Man comic, mainly because I know that the person who originally collected it had not opened it or read it at any point. So I knew it was immaculate, and I thought, right, I'll keep that as it is. So I then bought a second copy that was a little bit rough around the edges so I could read it. But the main thing I do this with, of course, is collectibles, because 9 times out of 10, if it's something I'm going to unbox, I will get 2 of them. So I keep one sealed and then I open the other one. So yeah, so I suppose that's what I'd mainly do that with collectibles, because as we know, they're worth more in the packaging than they are out of it. So yeah.
That's actually it means we won't have to ask it separately, but that was actually Rock and Rollers RC's next question was, do you buy multiple copies of things so you can open and play and keep sealed? And I guess it's exactly what I've seen. Oh, well, I know that from you, Lee. You do that with things like the He-Man figures and stuff like that, right? You'll have one on display and one put away. Well, it's like a rhyme there. What about yourself, Chef? You kind of keep stuff to preserve? Don't care?
So I don't go out my way to collect sealed stuff, but if I find it then out and about, I will, not open it. But recently, the last couple of years, I've bought games, special editions, where I've not unsealed them. I've kept them sealed, and I bought a standard edition on some games, not a lot, just a few, purely because, not for a resale value, just more the fact of that, just to keep that little memento or something that's a collector piece, if we will. Of a game or said item. So I don't go out my way. I try and play or open everything I've got. But if I go out my way and I naturally find something sealed, I won't open it just for the sake of opening it. Unless it's something I actually want to use and I haven't got it, then yes. But yeah, I don't go out my way to buy sealed stuff, really.
Cool. All right. Excellent, great. The next question I'm going to ask is actually from 2 people, so it's the same question essentially. So I'm going to sort of merge the question together. So Comics and Retro asked, and so did Pixel Bites ask, what are the best and worst consoles of all time, and therefore systems you potentially wouldn't collect for or wouldn't like to collect for? So let's go to Chef this time. What's your best and worst console, and any console you wouldn't collect for?
Oh well, best console to collect for, because Comic and Retro Nicky's sent this question, just to wind him up. I'm gonna say Master System is a system, because he hates Master System with a passion. So I'm gonna say that's one of my favorites to collect for. I love I'll be truthful. I love the box art. I think for something black and white, the crisscrossy black and white, I think it's awesome. And there's some serious games on the Master System. So yeah, I think it's a very underrated system, and I'd recommend anyone to start collecting for Master System. It's not very expensive either. You can get them fairly cheap, the systems, and the games are there's some awesome games. Secret Commando or Secret Commands, which is basically Rambo in America. Awesome game. Anyway, the least one, I've got nothing. I've got no love for Atari stuff. I'm so sorry. Anything Atari, oh my god, the 2600, all that would them games. No, I'm sorry. I'll get more fun playing with those games in the bath with the water, and you used to push the button. Used to, those things. I can't stand Atari. I'm so sorry. I'm probably gonna get some hate, but Yeah, I
And
don't
rightly
collect
deserved.
Atari. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't collect Atari stuff, and I'm sorry if I've upset anyone.
Lee, what about yourself?
Well, actually, like for worst, mine's going to be similar to Chef's, but we'll get to that in a minute. Obviously, Mega Drive, I think, is going to have to be my number one, like the best, because it's the way that I feel when I'm holding one of them games in my hand. You know, when I open the box, and just like you said, the box art and nice crisp manual in there, and it's just the whole, like you always say, Martin, the ceremony of it, right? So, and then plugging it in your Mega Drive, switching it on, the whole thing, like the whole shebang. And again, like I said, first console I had, the only thing I'd had previously was the Commodore 64. So it was the first console I had. So a lot of love for the Mega Drive. So definitely my favorite. Worst though, and I only say this because I've never bought one, but would never buy one because I've had a go on one and they're crap. And that's the Atari Jaguar.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, but there's a reason why they started using the cases in hygiene places, isn't it? They were using them, weren't they, for cleaning people's teeth? There's a reason, because they're rubbish. They are. Like, they lied about the system, didn't they? They said they were, they said they were 32-bit when all it is just two 16-bit processors, I think, isn't it? If I remember right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and let's be honest, I mean, whenever you say to anyone, well, what's the best game on it? Everybody always says the same game, which means all the others are rubbish, right? So, yeah, there's no way on earth. I know it's worth probably quite a bit now, but I don't want one. So no, yeah,
Fair
for me
enough,
it's an Atari Jaguar.
Before we get the tech nerds involved, I think we best correct it was two 32-bit systems to equal a 64-bit system, but it was a complete lie. Otherwise, we'll get murdered, Lee. Otherwise,
technicalities.
They'll be honest. They'll be honest, like you wouldn't believe. Although they can come after you, you're a big guy. They haven't seen you. You're a big guy. They can come after you. Oh man, that's interesting. Right. For me, I am kind of changing my worst because of a big reason. So my favorite is Commodore 64 disc-based games. There's just something magical for me around those 5.25-inch big floppy discs, and the boxes they come in and the stuff you get in the box. To me, that's it's magical because I love the disc system for the Commodore 64, the disc drive. I was lucky enough to have one as a child, and it just changes that system completely for me, loading the discs up and going through it. So that's my favorite. If I can find a game on disc, also because they're super rare, they're buried, especially in the UK. They're harder and harder to find. A bit more available in the US, but you got to ship it over here. So when I do find them, they're great to have. The worst console, I'll do two things. I'm going to say the worst console and then the worst thing to collect for. So the worst console to me, I'm sorry, is the N64. Like I have no love for that system whatsoever. So yeah, it's probably way more controversial than your Atari 2600. But just a system I have no love for whatsoever. Yeah, just don't get it. I think by that time I was much more into PC gaming, and there's a way better PC games to play than what was on the N64. You and your golden eyes. But the worst platform to collect for, which pains me that it's bad to collect for, is the Amiga. Like, Amiga discs are so disheartening when you go and buy a lovely Amiga game, big box, lovely manual, and maybe a poster in there, some other little trinkets and other nice things in there, and then you put the discs in and they've rotted away, and they won't read, and it kills you. And it's a 50-50. It is a coin flip to whether that disc will work anymore, and that can be very difficult to live with when you've paid chunks of money for an Amiga game. Yeah, that's probably the worst. Even though I love collecting for it, it is the worst one that I collect for, and makes collecting very difficult to do, in fact.
And that's the thing, they're not cheap either to start with, are they, them games? They're not cheap.
They're not.
So you're paying a lot of money and it might not even work.
Especially because I'd love to own, for instance, a boxed copy of Moonstone for the Amiga, and that's a £300 boxed game. Wow. And there is a coin flips chance that the discs don't even work. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. That's that one. Right. The next one is from Cooper's World, and Cooper's World asks, "What game would you like to see a sequel or a remake of in 2025?"
Oh,
I'm gonna go to Lee Nerdy Geezer first.
I think you might have to give me a bit of time to think
Oh,
of
okay.
something. Yeah,
Okay,
I
I'll
don't know,
go because I've got an answer. So mine is probably really obvious, and probably lots of people would say it, but mine is F-Zero. I think F-Zero is so. I don't understand why there's never been a remake or a Switch version beyond just doing Super Nintendo rehash. Like, I can't understand why we haven't seen a modern F-Zero game called F-Zero, whatever. They've done pretty much everything else from that era of games and renewed them, rehashed them, remade them. But we've never seen F-Zero, and I just don't understand why. And I think it would be amazing if they could do it well. So yeah, mine is simply F-Zero. Jeff?
I'll tell you why F-Zero is because America. It's another Nintendo IP. They probably don't want to have two games that, even though F-Zero would sell loads, but that's the only logical thing you could think of, is because it's Mario Kart, because it's another racing game, regardless of it's not in space and all that.
Yeah.
But wow, okay, wow. Oh god. Oh wow.
I thought of one. If you want me to go,
Oh, yeah,
Jeff.
go on, mate. Go.
So, firstly, I want to actually agree with Martin 100%. I think if Martin hadn't said that, I probably would have said F-Zero.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, great game. Like, it really is. It's criminal that they haven't done a sequel to that. It really is. They really dropped the ball with that. But another one I think they dropped the ball with, really, is we haven't seen a newer version of Outrun for a while either. That's one I'd like to see.
Yep, great arcade game as well.
When was the last time we saw an arcade Outrun? Like,
Is it 2000? Was that the Xbox, the 2000 at Coast to Coast 2006?
it was
Coast
on
to Coast.
PS2 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
so that's 18 years old or 19 years old. So yeah, there's not been one for 19 years.
I think they've dropped the ball with arcade races.
Mm.
Like, absolutely. Like, that's
No
something we need to do.
Daytona, Sega Rally. They're the other ones that are really popular of them type of games.
Mm.
Oh god. Oh, this is. I'm going to say something a little bit different, just to be different. Now, a game that I used to play that I was a little bit a bit scared of when I was a kid, when I used to hear the noises. Especially, this is going to sound so stupid now, but I used to be a little bit wary of Altered Beast on the Mega Drive. When I was, the old noises, rise from your grave. All right.
Yeah, I used to love that voice.
Yeah.
Rise from your grave.
Yeah. So we've had so many rehashes of fighting games, Double Dragon, Final Fights, and Streets of Rage. But Altered Beast was always one that I really enjoyed. I mean, same as Alien Storm, but Altered Beast is one I'd love to see a remake. There's a PS2 one, which
I was going to say they did try on the PS2, didn't they?
Super expensive for rubbish. I've got it and it's terrible, and it's a Sega game as well. But Altered Beast, just because it's just so different, if you will, there's nothing really like it. I guess closest thing to it is Bloody Raw, but that's a 2D, 3D fighting game where you change to monsters, creatures. But that's a tough one, that question, because there is so many. You know, you could have said Pilot Wings, another Super NES game. You never had anything really.
Yeah, going back to what you said about Altered Beast, imagine if they did that as an open world. I think that would be quite interesting.
Oh, can you imagine Altered Beast open world, and each boss you fight, when you kill them, you get their power, whether it's a bear, a dragon. I think I've just made a game, boys.
Yeah.
Quick, get it registered, mate. That could be an idea.
I think it, mate. Yeah, great question. Great question, Steve.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, great and great choices. Right, the next one is from our good friend Retro Skelly. He has put, how do you define retro gaming? Does it depend on year, console generation, or something else? So how do you define retro gaming? Lee, are you ready to jump in on that one?
I am, yeah. It's quite simple for me. The way I see it is if they no longer provide any type of support for the system, it's retro. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to look at it, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
when you think about it, because at that point they're not supporting the system anymore. So
Yeah.
what else is it but retro at that point?
Mm.
And do you mean by support like releasing new games or like
Well, new games,
firmware support? Like what do you
firmware,
define?
taking the live servers down, yeah, all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
okay.
You know? Yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
great. So I guess in your mind then, Xbox 360, PS3 are all now retro, I guess.
Yeah.
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 Because I don't think the Xbox 360's network has just recently gone down. It's like the last year, I think, hasn't it? So
I think so. Yeah, because they removed all the games off the Game Pass as well, didn't they?
Yeah, did you? Yeah. What about yourself, Chef?
It's going to be 8-bit and 16-bit. So NES, Super NES, Mega Drive, Master System, PC Engine. To me, that's retro. I don't call CDs retro because we still buy CDs. If that makes any kind of sense, we still buy CD games. But I get what Lee's saying, 100%, because like PS1, you could play on the PS3. You can't play it on the PS4, obviously, unfortunately. But then Xbox Series X, I was playing Manhunt on the original Xbox Manhunt. I was playing on my Xbox Series X last year. I don't know about now. I haven't played it recently. But 16-bit is for me retro, and then the other term, old, is the superior system of C64 because that's before, if that makes sense.
Call it vintage computing is
classic gaming as well, Chef.
Yeah, it is definitely a tricky one because I think Lee, your point there around once a system is no longer supported, of course it's retro, right? It's but it is really hard to call a PS3 game retro because in my head The Last of Us came out on PS3, and that is not like, how could I call that game a retro game, even though it's like a long time ago now, right? That's the problem. The passage of time has passed.
The only thing I would say to that, though, Martin, is when you look at, for example, like Mega Drive to PS1 and then from PS1 to PS2, you'll probably find that them systems come out a lot quicker. So you would have had several consoles in that time, whereas this time around we haven't.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, consoles live for like 8-9 years, right, before the next one comes out. So, but it just seems so crazy to think that The Last of Us is, if that's what you say, that PS3 is retro, The Last of Us is a retro game, and that feels kind of crazy, right? Although it's been remade and rehashed and redigitized, all the rest of it. So yes, when I think of retro, I tend to think probably the latest systems being N64, PS1, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn. Past that, when you get into like Xbox One, the original Xbox, PS2, that feels like that sort of newer generation. I guess I would just call them old at that point, maybe not retro. So yeah, that and obviously the Amiga, Commodore 64, Spectrum, and so on. I mean, they're well retro. I guess what people would say is they're almost vintage computing at that point. But yeah, it feels bonkers to say that PS3 is retro, but it is, because I mean, like you say, it's not supported anymore. There's no new games coming out for it. It's but I think I liked your point as well, Chef, around the disc. Like, it's really hard to feel nostalgic and retro to a disc, because that's still how we play games today. We still get our PS5 out and put our CD in most of the time, and in even other systems. So it is definitely not a retro media, but it's
there's no wrong answer, Martin, because I think
it's true.
You think about age. Your dad, bless him. What does he think's retro? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's age related in some terms, if that makes sense.
The only thing I would say though is, although they're discs, don't forget they're different discs. I mean,
it's true.
First of all, they were CDs, then they were DVDs. The new games are now Blu-ray. So they have changed. They look the same, but they are very different. So that's the other thing.
Ultimately, a really good question that is a very debatable topic, I think, from very different people.
Good question. Good question.
Absolutely. I mean, my dad, who's still a gamer, today I saw him on Steam playing games at 77 years old. To him, he'd still think that Windows XP is still a modern operating system, and he'd be playing all his games on there. And to him, retro would probably be the ZX81 and stuff like that.
Wow.
So it's a completely, you know, where are you and what did you play? And yeah, it's a great debate and will mean something to everybody, right? So brilliant question.
Nothing wrong with Windows XP either. Love Windows XP. It was great.
Yeah. Right. The next question is from Retrobait, and it is to all of us. It's a little tongue in cheek, so we'll take the initial part of the question and we'll answer it individually. But it's, what is the far superior 8-bit microprocessor computer, and why is it the Commodore 64? Was the second. So I'm not going to say I disagree with him, and we can ask the question, but I'm guessing he's asking, in our own opinions, what is the best 8-bit microprocessor computer?
Well, I think we'd all say the same, wouldn't we? I mean, my answer is going to be the Commodore 64. So,
yeah,
my answer is yes.
Well, let's do this then. Why is it the Commodore 64? Because that's his last question. His last part of his question was, why is it the Commodore 64? I think we're all Commodore 64 fans here. So why is it the Commodore 64 for you personally versus the Spectrum, the Amstrad, the TI-99, and so on?
I can sum that up in one easy way of putting it, right? I prefer playing Bubble Bobble on the Commodore 64 over the arcade version.
Whoa.
And I think that's the best way I can explain why the C64 is the best 8-bit system. Because if I prefer playing that to the arcade, they clearly did something right with it. So, you know,
you have always been a very big advocate for that game on the Commodore 64. I think all the time I've ever known you, you've always bigged that up as a game on there.
Whenever I play it on anything else, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't move right. It's just wrong because I've always played it on a Commodore 64.
Yeah. I can tell you why I love it. I love it because of how much of a computer it is. So, for instance, I don't think there's another 8-bit micro out there that can do tape, cartridge, floppy disk, and you can program, and you can connect to a printer, and you can connect, and there's the amount of things you can do with a Commodore 64. I think is just that some of them will do others, some of them will do cartridges, some will do tape, but they won't do all of them, you know. And I think for me, the Commodore 64 was the most versatile, proper computer, and therefore that's why I was so attracted to it when I was younger, because I always wanted to work in tech. I always wanted to work in IT for as long as I can possibly remember. And when I sat at a Commodore 64, I felt like I was using state-of-the-art technology, you know, especially with the disk drive. You know, the disk drive was amazing. Other people out there loading cassette tapes, whatever. I've got a disk drive. You know, I felt like I had something really cool. And of course, in cartridges and instant loading off of those compared to loading a tape or whatever. And you get, as you said, and the games were great. And of course, the music. I don't care what anyone says. The Commodore 64 has the best sound chip in the SID chip of the 8-bit microprocessors, and therefore even dodgy brown games, of which we did have a number of them, were made instantly better by the sound that was coming out of the screen that you were playing on. So bad games could become good games because the music made up for it, you know. That's my case for the Commodore 64 being the best microprocessor computer. Chef, you can just agree with everything I said if you want. And
I'm just going to say one thing. Obviously, I never had a C64 as a kid. My brother had a Spectrum, but the love of it has come from you guys, and most of all the sound it makes. I know you just mentioned it, but you know, playing Guns and Ghosts.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it hits different. The sound hits different. RoboCop as well. When I play that, even though the game's broken as hell. But the music was just the intro, not the intro, like the intro music, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sound is just unreal.
Yeah.
And even as a 42-year-old man, I'm thinking, wow, this is something even that I can appreciate now in 2025.
Yeah. Here's a test for you, right? Probably one of the worst games on the Commodore 64 is Highlander. Right? The Highlander game is atrocious, but I dare anyone to not load that game up and rock out to the Queen soundtrack coming from the SID chip. It's amazing, like how they've done that, and it makes that game is awful. it's still worth loading up for the sound. That's it. So you know.
Well, the other thing is, if you go on YouTube, there's still people who create music using the Commodore 64,
Yep.
even to this day.
Yep.
Like, that tells you everything.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We've just lost most of our audience that are Spectrum lovers, or Amstrad lovers, or TI-99 lovers, or whatever other random systems out there. But yeah, for the C64 lovers that are still here, thanks for sticking with us. Right, the next question was from Ali 16 bits and bobs. And of course, this question could only have come from Ali 16 bits and bobs, and that is, who is the sexiest game character ever?
Do you know what I was expecting? I was expecting something to do with butter and bread, because you know what he's like.
Well,
He's always going on about that, isn't he? Oh, I don't know. Do you want to go with this one, Chef?
Yeah, I'm going to say Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, because I remember when I played the PS1, his hair was unreal. It was the spikes on it were unreal, and I was like, "Whoa, it's quite interesting." And then the cutscenes, the FMVs, you think completely different guy, very attractive guy, along with Sephiroth, very attractive. No, all seriousness. Oh wow. I don't know her name, but I always quite like the girl from Zombies Ate My Neighbors, the player 2 character, the girl. I just thought she looked cool as a teenager. I thought, she looks cool because she's killing zombies and werewolves and demons, and she's, she's my age.
Yeah. My answer to this would be, just because I think everyone panned around when you could do this, and that was Lara Croft from the PS1 era on the PlayStation. Who there's not a single person on the planet who, when they put that game in and loaded up Lara Croft, didn't have a quick pan around to see what she looked like from every angle. And there you go. That's you just got to put your hands up and admit to it. We were all kids. We all saw what we saw, and that was enough for us.
They were some triangles, mate. Let me tell you.
There was only a couple of polygons, but they were polygons that counted back then. So, so go on, Lee, what's your answer to this question?
I'm trying to remember the name of the character. She was in the Tekken games. And also Soul Calibur, blonde hair.
No, Nina Williams.
No, I don't think that's her name. I don't think, you know, the one I'm on about with the metal whip. Can't think of her name.
Metal whip.
Was it Ivory? That's my pick anyway. I just can't remember her name. Let me check.
All right. I think I know the one you mean. She had a sword, but then when she fought with it, it turned into a long whip, didn't it?
That's right. I mean, basically, she's got knee-high boots on. She's got a bodysuit on that's tight as hell, and it's, it's thong based. Like, what more is there to want? Like,
enough, that is fair enough. the name will come to you at some point. Probably 10 questions from now, you'll just drop a name in, or we'll come back to it. But yeah, there we go. There you go.
Thank you, Ali.
For your question. Right, the next one is this one is actually a really interesting one, because I think this will be just good to hear our thoughts on it. So Kevin asked, if you could erase one thing from the gaming universe / community, what would it be? What would be the one thing you'd remove from hobby scene, the gaming community? I don't know, does anyone want to jump in first?
I can jump in if you want.
Go on, mate.
Right, before I start that question, it is Ivy, so I was right.
Oh, well
okay, there we go.
Yes, it was her. One thing I'd like to remove is the gatekeeping. That's what I'd remove. Like, there's no wrong or right way to collect. There's no wrong or right way to be part of a gaming community. It's all on your own preference, what you're into, what you enjoy, who you want to do, talk to, be interactive with, etc., etc. That's what I want to see at the end of gatekeeping.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
There's no need for it. At the end of the day, everybody's different.
Yeah, good answer, mate. Chef?
Other than Spectrum live streams, I'm gonna go for CEX rouletting.
Oh, good one.
I'm gonna go for CEX rouletting. Close second is live streaming of ZX Spectrum, especially by Sega Zombie. All right.
Yeah, CEX roulettes. I think that's a fair. I mean, that's a lot of the internet that would disappear. But okay, For me, I mean, I'll echo your one, Lee. I'll try and add to it as well. Yeah, I must admit, I'm lucky. I'm part of actually, I think we're all part of multiple communities. You know, this podcast does often stray into the retro gaming community, but there's obviously other communities we're part of, as well as comics and videos and movies and board games and miniature games. And I must admit, the retro gaming scene is the only one where I ever really do come across that almost combative gatekeeping. It just doesn't happen in other communities, you know, that I see. So if I was to say anything, I think that's the one that I would go, yeah, you know what, it would be a happier place if everyone was a bit more accepting of whyever you're doing this, it's your choice to do it. And that also includes the YouTube community. Whatever reason you're wanting to be into YouTube and creating videos, or then great, you do it for you. That's it. Like, don't let anyone judge you or tell you why you can and can't do the thing you're doing. If you're happy, you crack on. As long as you're not hurting anybody, then you do you, you know. And ultimately, people will choose to follow or not follow, and that's not bad either. If you don't want to follow it, don't follow it. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel like you have to. And if you do want to follow it, don't feel bad about following it. You know, that's great. Brilliant. You like what that person does. You're enjoying it, or you're collecting yourself. So yeah, I think it is something I see quite a lot in the way more in the retro community than any other community is that kind of, I guess it's gatekeeping, to your point, Lee, or more being more judgmental. And I'd love to see that disappear. Everyone always seems to be at each other. Which, do you know what I mean? I've never seen it so much as apart from this community. So I guess to answer, I'd echo that point and just say, yeah, it would be lovely if that disappeared. Right.
The thing is, I mean, you know, everybody can have an opinion, but you don't all have to agree. You know, you can have an opinion, but just leave it at that. Just an opinion. You know, it's simple, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Right, Chef. The next question is very specifically for you. And me and Lee cannot have an opinion on this. So this one is from Thalia, and she wants to know why is Thalia your favourite daughter? So you might give some context to this, because I'm hoping that means she's either your only child, or otherwise you're having to pick between some children here.
Loaded question. That's all I'm going to say.
So what we're going to look, because Thalia is someone who is, she's my firstborn, so she's awesome. You've met her, mine. She's such a good spirited girl, bless her. But my favourite child is Dory the parrot.
That's true.
That's what we're going with. I think that's the safest bet.
Yeah, that way you don't get lynched by your daughters. Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Because Sammy's crazy. She's just like me. Maybe worse, my youngest. But yeah, definitely my parrot is my favourite.
And we can back that up because he talks so much more fondly about Dory than he does his children. So I think we can definitely back that up in case they're also listening.
Well, I think I probably spoke to Dory more than
this is true.
Yeah,
because Dory's always talking in the background. So
yeah, she's actually shouting downstairs. I can hear her. She knows I'm upstairs and I'm doing something. Yeah. I know I can hear her. But anyway, yeah.
Brilliant, excellent. Right, Gib84 asks, very simply, retro or modern gaming? That's his entire question. I'm going to assume he means what's your go-to? Where do you end up? You know, let's try and be truthful if we can, guys. We should be very honest about whether we gravitate to one or the other.
Oh, wow.
I'll go first. I must admit, recently, I do end up playing modern games. I want to play retro games, which is why I do Monday Night Retro. It's a great stream. You should maybe check it out sometime. And that's why I have that in there. So I force myself to play modern games. Not force myself, but like actually schedule it in so I actually do it. Otherwise, the weeks can fly by before you realise. But I do find myself really enjoying some modern games like the Elden Rings that I've gone on about a million times. Recently I've been playing Magic the Gathering, I've been playing Vampire Survivors, and a bunch of other modern games. It doesn't mean they're not retro styled, because Vampire Survivors is definitely a retro inspired game. But it's a modern game. It's, you know, it's only come out maybe 5 years ago. So that's kind of how I will gravitate to modern, just because I'm interested in the new tech, I'm interested in the new game, I want to see how it plays. but I schedule in to make sure I put time aside to play some of those older games and retro games. That's where I'm at. Chef, what about yourself?
I would say modern, because it's what I've got to hand. I mean, like I said, I've got Game Boy games next to me where I'm sitting now, and I play a bit of retro before I go to bed. But I think obviously no games room, no retro. I think that's the best way for me to say for the second, really. So modern, I'm playing more modern at the moment than anything else.
Yeah. Lee?
I think I can honestly say I'm literally 50-50, because last week, like for example, I've not played anything this week. I've been watching a lot of stuff actually just recently. But I can only go by what I've played. Say if I look at the last couple of weeks, last week I played nothing but retro, but the week before I was playing modern stuff on the PC. So I am literally 50-50. I don't fall on either side. It depends on my mood, if I'm honest. It depends on what I feel like. Of course, with retro, in most cases, it's the nostalgia that drives that. So I might have a day where I just want to play something nostalgic, But then I might have a day where I'm like, oh, I haven't played that. I want to see what's next on this game, So on a modern one. So I don't fall in either camp, if I'm honest. I'll be honest on that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, mate. I think I would tend to agree. It's what mood strikes you, and where do you class modern retro? Because I've just been recently playing a lot of Amiga homebrew games that are new games but running on an Amiga. So that's definitely in the grey area. So sometimes you don't want to. It's gaming is gaming. It's just what grabs me. What I make sure I do is have some time put aside for gaming, the Monday night retros, the other streams I might do, or when we talk about games I then go and check it out. I think a healthy split is a good thing, right? Right, the next question is from One Up Retro Gaming.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, what is your view on collecting retro in 2025? And he also points out things like prices, Facebook groups, CEX. How do you think it's going in the retro collecting scene? Lee, do you want to jump in?
It's quite a broad spectrum, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, I'll be honest, with CEX, especially with where I'm at now with my collecting, like cartridge based. The only thing I really buy from CEX, for example, would be like SNES or NES carts, and that's because I'm cart only, really, primarily with them. But if I was after like Mega Drive, etc., I want them box complete, I'd go to eBay. So I do think in terms of that, CEX, they are getting better, aren't they, with their condition? But I still don't trust them enough, if I'm honest. So I don't know. I think the prices are good, but you never quite know what you're getting with them, do you? So at the same time, also, I mean, at one point we was all complaining about the price of these games, but I think recently, if I'm honest, I think some of them have started to come down a bit, haven't they? Depending on what it is you're collecting. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but Evercade carts, some of them have gone up a bit, haven't they? You've seen them recently?
Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah,
crazy money now.
So again, I think it kind of depends on what you're in the market for as well. Yeah, what was the rest of that question, Martin?
Well, I think it was just like, how do you use? Because I don't know if you'll be like me, Lee, but that's why Chef's got. I know Chef is more into this. Things like the Facebook groups and stuff like that, or Facebook Marketplace. Do you use those much, or not really?
I had a couple of bad experiences, if I'm honest, with Facebook groups. I don't tend to really buy anything because, I remember buying a Spectrum bundle and then it didn't work.
Yeah.
And you remember that was a massive headache. That was trying to get that sorted. Yeah. So and the guy who sold it to me wasn't massively helpful either afterwards. So I don't tend to like doing that, if I'm honest. It's different if it's someone I know, and this is going to be a massive plug for Chef here. If it's someone who's on the swap shop, you love it, don't you?
Love it.
Yeah,
Chef,
well, I did that. Look, I'm advertising for you now.
No,
you save that to the end, guys. Don't come on.
You can pay me later. Yeah, but I mean, the difference is with that is that, of course, yes, it does become through Facebook. But the point is, we're in a community. We're easy to talk to each other. It obviously all goes through Lee as well.
Yeah.
So then it works. But otherwise, no.
Yeah. I'll come to you in a sec, Chef. But I mean, for me, I used to buy loads of stuff from CEX when I first got into like getting back into retro game collecting and stuff like that. I thought that was the best thing to do, is build up a massive list of things, buy all the games, maybe do the odd roulette in the early days. How dare you? It was. I don't think I've bought anything from CEX in a very, very long time, because it just feels, again, I don't know. And well, one, they don't sell the things I want anymore, right? They don't sell Amiga, they don't sell Commodore 64, they don't sell much that I would actually buy off them. But again, I feel like I've had my fill of those things. To me now, and I don't use Facebook groups, and I haven't used Facebook Marketplace, apart from once where I got the Commodore 64 C, the Australian variant. That was like the only time I've ever had like a win on Facebook, because it was like 50 quid from someone down the road. It was quite crazy. And actually, so that's a lie. You're the Amiga 500 you've got, Lee. That came from Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the smoky edition that I got from that guy's house. it was more yellow than you could possibly imagine.
Do you remember the comment when I showed that on a video? Someone turned around and said, "The colour of that case is like buttery ass."
I mean,
funniest comment I've ever read under a video.
It looked far worse before I tried having a go at painting it, that's for sure. I tend to do all of my buying now at things like the London Gaming Market or an event or the Retro Realm, those sorts of things. Rather, like when I'm out about in person and I see something, then I'll pick it up. I will very rarely buy eBay or anything like that anymore, because I feel like it is more. I like it's not the thrill of the hunt, because I'm not going to pretend I go out every day. That's just not true. But it is quite nice to see something unique and go, oh, like the Turbo Tomato homebrew game I picked up on the Amiga at Scott's place. Like, you're never going to see homebrew Amiga games in the wild. So the fact that I saw one in his Retro Realm, I was like, wow, that's really cool. I'd probably not have bought that if I saw it online or anywhere else. But the fact it was there, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get that. And I did. So that, I think, gives me a little bit of a, oh, that's nice feeling. So that's why I do that. Chef, I know you're quite good at Facebook Marketplace and stuff, aren't you? You're probably the most pro.
No, that's a horrible rumor. That's not true. Mate, you know yourself. I've got some absolutely blinding stuff on Facebook. What I've learned is you have to be hot to trot, and you got to have the cash in your side pocket, because a lot of the good stuff will go quick. I put bundles galore off Facebook. I do use CEX for certain things. I mean, one of my pickups vid I've just not long filmed. I haven't loaded it up yet, but there's one particular game I picked up, box complete from CEX, which was lovely, and I'm so happy, because it's fairly expensive to buy box complete off eBay, and I had an alert on and it came up, and I literally snatched it as soon as I could, and I was waiting for it to get the email to say that it's been dispatched, because sometimes you get the old refund, when you're waiting. But pricing's an awkward one, because you've got Evercade gone up, which I never thought, because I bought an Evercade VS system for £10. And now you're getting cart sale for 100 and something and whatever, like, price. This is something I didn't expect. I'll be honest with you with the Evercade, because a lot of those ports are the 8-bit NES ports on certain games, and so they're not the best ports of games. But then some stuff is good. I've got some stuff. Lee's got some stuff. You had some stuff at one point, Martin. But I think 2025 still early doors. I haven't bought much off Facebook at the moment. I've learned a few golf clubs, but that's a different stream. But it's still early days. London Gaming Market in March. Not sure if I'm going to that one yet, but I know we're going to be going to some other shows, which we'll talk about separately. But Gaming Market, I think, is an awkward one, because I think they're not priced to sell. They're priced to be looked at. Nothing's cheap there. There's no, oh, we sold it cheap. And yes, you can do deals, but they're only doing deals if you're spending large amounts of money, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. But Facebook for me is, yeah, I've had some great stuff, and I've seen some good stuff come up, and I just haven't gone out my way to get anything yet. But I will do. I will, go out to get some bits. But yeah, it's at the minute it's still early days, really. I would say.
Yeah.
Do you think... I can't believe you missed out that he robbed an old lady of an Amiga.
That was in 2023, just to be precise. We're talking about 2025.
Lee is well known of separating old ladies from both their retro and their virtue. That is what he's he's well known in the Essex area. Yeah, it's brilliant, excellent. Right, the next question, if I can re-find where I was. This one also instantly puts a gaming to my head. So this one is your favorite video game soundtrack. I can tell you what the name of the game that just instantly jumps into my head, which is Super Castlevania on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
That the music in that game, it literally, I'm like literally humming it in my brain right now. Like the whole game has just got such cracking music in it that invokes such great memories. Super Castlevania on the Super Nintendo was a game I played an absolute ton of. I've completed it more times than I can possibly count. You can definitely complete it in like a couple of sit-ins. It's not a massive game, but every level in that game has unique music, and it just sticks with me because I've played it so much. So that is my very quick answer, because it instantly pops into my brain. Is Super Castlevania on the Super Nintendo. Chef, go for it.
Mine was going to be Castlevania Rondo of Blood on the PC Engine, because the music on that is exquisite. If you've not heard it, it's amazing. But mine's going to be, because it's a newer game that I've waxed lyrical about since 2020, is the Mummy Demastered. I absolutely love the music on the Mummy Demastered, so much so that I've got it on my Apple playlist on my phone in the car. I love the music in that game. Very nostalgic, with a retro synth twist. It's awesome. Great album.
Well, I know I'm going to be listening to on the train tomorrow now. Then I'm going to be looking at on Spotify, and I'll give it a listen tomorrow.
Please do.
Lee, go on, jump in.
I think I'm actually going to pick a modern, or a more modern one.
Oh, nice.
Because you've heard me bang on about this loads, but Val Faris has got a great soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
That is so good. I'm told that Slane's just as good, which I've also got, but I haven't got around to playing that yet.
Yeah, Slane's good, mate.
But Val Faris, I love the music in that. I mean, it's proper rock like music, and that's my thing. So and it's a great game anyway. So I always can't wait to switch that on. Like the minute that music's perfect for the style of game it is. It's just perfect. It's 100%. So don't get me wrong. There's plenty of old games where they've got great music in, and even some new ones like Homebrew Guns and Ghosts, like you said earlier, Chef.
Yeah. Awesome game.
And then you got your classics like Bubble Bobble and out on the C64, like I always bang on about that. Loaded, loads of old games with great music. But I think if I was to go for one recently, I'd say Val Faris. Love the music on that game.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, all great choices. Yeah. Okay, right. The next question is asked to me directly, actually. But I'll come to you guys if you've got a view on it. And Michael asks me, what is the best thing about HeroQuest? Which is actually quite funny, because there is a YouTube video where you can find out what the best thing about HeroQuest is, and it's by a guy called The Bard, and it's a very funny video. I'll make sure, in fact, I'll link it below here, and it's a whole video about and it's a parody, but it's done in such a great way. So why do I love HeroQuest? I love HeroQuest so much because for me, I think it was the only time I could play like Dungeons and Dragons, but alone. I'm not gonna play the violin too much, but as a child, I was alone a lot, and for me, being able to have the hardest thing about Dungeons and Dragons is having someone tell the story. You need someone to be that dungeon master, and you need someone to tell a great story with great characters. you're rescuing whatever it is you're going to do and weave that story for you. Where HeroQuest allowed you to play out very simple stories, of course, but you had the constraints of the board. You had your heroes and they were defined. You had your monsters and your bad guy, and you had a bit of a story, and you had an adventure. What was you going to go and do? What was you going to, rescue this person, find this treasure, escape this maze, and things like that. And that's why, and it was, it was coffee table sized, so you knew exactly what you were going to deal with. You still had all the imagination of the various rooms and the doors and the treasure and the monsters, and it just allowed you to play out these little stories in your fantasy world. And then at the back of the book, once you got to the back of the book, there was empty maps, which you then could go, once you'd played a bunch of maps, create your own. So for me, HeroQuest was so great, and is still so great, because it's a gateway game to maybe those bigger D&D type adventures. So there you go. That's why I think I know what Michael wants me to say. Michael wants me to say it's the Broadsword, which is directly from the video. So if you haven't seen the video, what I just said makes no sense, but that's what he thinks I'm going to say. So I'll put it in there, but I'll put the video link below and you can watch it. It's a really great video. But yeah, guys, do you have any experience of HeroQuest? Jeff?
Played it with my brother, but I wouldn't be able to give you like an answer like yourself. I mean, we played it a few times as a kid. It's definitely something I'd like to get back into, but wouldn't be fair for me to say this, and this. But I enjoyed it nevertheless, and I would like to go back to it sometime. Hopefully with you, sir.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, Lee?
Same answer, really. I mean, I had it when I was a teenager, played it here and there, but I don't really remember much about it, to be honest.
Okay, so it's set then. We need a HeroQuest live stream from the Hobby Lodge.
Sounds like a plan.
Excellent. Let's do it. Okay, right. From Tetley, Tetley's question was, if you were to, hang on, let me get the words correctly while I'll try and read this. If you were to be tempted to buy one more 8 or 16-bit computer/console to add to your collection, what would it be? Lee, let me come to you first.
I know my answer to this, but technically it's not a 16-bit system, is it? But my answer would be the Neo Geo. Because I had a friend who had one, and so I used to see him play, because he was older than us, so you weren't allowed to play it. It was kind of like Chef's thing with his brother, where you was allowed to watch, but you couldn't really play
it. You can breathe on it, but you can't touch it.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, I remember him watching him playing. I think it was King of Fighters. He used to be playing on it a lot. Any fighting game really that he used to play, which is probably another reason why I got into fighters the way I did, actually. But it's always a system that's kind of like amazed me, like in the way it looks, the way it plays. But you just don't see them very often, and when you do, they're really expensive. So I guess if I was tempted to buy or get any other system, it would be that, if I could get one. Yeah, that would be my answer.
All right. Jeff?
This is a bit of a tough question, really, because I've got most of the systems that I want, barring one, and it plays the PC Engine, I believe, Duo R, which is a CD-based and cart-based system, which plays 8-bit, 16-bit, and I'm going to say, which I might get shot down for, I'm sure it plays 32-bit games on the CD, but I could be completely wrong. But I know it's 8 and 16-bit for definite, so I want a Duo R, and hopefully one will come into my collection. But they want from this Shores. I would have said the Famicom disk system, which I forgot to give to you. My apologies, Martin, from the last time. I need to. That was one I wanted for some time, just because we never had it here, and it's something so different. And the Duo R is also that system, because PC Engine we got here is the oh my god, I forgot the name, what it was called over here, but it was very loose. We didn't get many of them. Oh god, that's gone on. What was it called over here? Not the PC Engine.
Well, no, it was called the Graphics FX, wasn't it?
Oh, TurboGrafx.
TurboGrafx.
Yes,
that's it.
That was what it was here and in America. But they sold very scarce in this country, because Super Nintendo, Mega Drive just hoovered up everyone, didn't they? Really?
Yeah.
But the PC Engine, is the Duo R, especially because it's the CD base, so I can play Castlevania Rondo of Blood in its beautiful. Only way to play it is on the PC Engine.
Yeah, good answers. Yeah, I mean, certainly, Lee, the Neo Geo is the allure of that system is to anyone who's of an age. I think when we used to see that out and about, doesn't matter what you had, Sega Mega Drive, the Super Nintendo, whatever, the Neo Geo was just always a step above, wasn't it? It was just you could never have one because everything cost a fortune for it, and but it was special. Yeah,
It was the Holy Grail, wasn't it?
yeah, it was.
literally
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, 100%. Whenever I saw that, the first time you saw King of Fighters or something, it doesn't matter that we had Street Fighter at home and Mortal Kombat at home and all these sorts of things. And I would even argue that King of Fighters isn't as good as those games. But when I saw them, it was, oh my God, look at that. Like, it must be amazing. And Samurai Showdown and those types of games, they were just amazing to look at, weren't they? They were next gen, truly, to what we had at that time, and were amazing. So yes, so my answer was going to be, of course, the Famicom disc system that Chef didn't give me, the Twin Famicom. And in truth, I would love one. I genuinely would love one, because it was so unique. And I only had 10, 15 minutes with it, and I instantly felt like, oh, this is something I'd love to own. And hopefully, if I guilt the Chef enough, I will get it from him, or he'll find me one out in the wild from one of his old ladies that he seduces. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. I won't say it's a grail, but I would love to get the Amstrad Mega PC. So I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but that is it's a desktop PC with a built-in Mega Drive, because that ticks like a lot of boxes for me. Like I'm a big old school PC, from Commodore to 64 to the Amiga, then to the early days of the 386 to 486, and that is a thing that I think's a lovely looking machine. It is a grey box. It is a PC. You can't really get away from that. But the fact that it had a Mega Drive port in it to then plug in your Mega Drive cartridges and play them on the system, I thought was so cool. So an Amstrad Mega PC and a Famicom disk system would be the ones I would pick. There we go. Good answers, everybody. Right, U-Star Gamer asked, if your collection was going up in smoke / fire, he's been very specific, what would be the first thing you would try and save? So what is I guess another way of saying it is there a holy grail in your collection that you would grab on the way out the door? Is there something you wouldn't want to see go?
My answer's kind of changed with this.
Okay, let's go for it then, Lee.
So originally, right, and people were always astonished at my original answer to this, because I always used to say my original Xbox 360. And it was because it was the first thing my wife bought me.
Oh,
so
nice.
it was special. So I always would have said that. But I think recently my answer to that would have changed. And the reason for that is because, like, to the left of me, I've got a PC tower sitting here, and that's got everything on it. Like, so I think that's what I would grab. Like, it's got all my photos on it. It's got a good portion of my DVD library on it. It's got games on it now, obviously, as well. And also, and I'll be honest, there are some retro ROMs on here. I do emulate here and there. So yeah, I think I would grab my tower. I really would. So that's my answer.
Okay, all right, Chef.
Golf club story. Then my
wife. If you're going down that road, mate, I'm surprised you've left there till third. But okay, fair enough.
My chef knives.
Coffee machine.
Wow. I'm gonna say the Famicom disc system, purely because yes, I've got so many other systems, so many other games, but recently it's something we never had, but I've kind of fallen for it because it's so neat and it's so different, and I can't say nostalgic because I never saw one until recently, but can you imagine having that in the late 80s? Like, I don't see many people with them. I not. I mean, I know Big Al's Arcade has got one, but I don't know no one else that's got one. I'll probably say that because there is some real nice games on it that we never got in PAL territories. So I'm going to say the Famicom Disk System.
Okay.
It's a nice looking system though, isn't it? And the games look great on it. When you brought it over to Martin's, I mean, yeah, they look way better on that than they did on the NES.
But it's very unique.
I was saying to Martin, I think I said to you as well, it's got an extra channel of music, of sound, and it's got an extra colours on the screen. That obviously you might notice if you've got a NES and a Famicom next to each other, maybe, but it's just such a nice little system.
Yeah.
It's a nice piece, Lee. You know.
Yeah,
it's a nice piece. It is a very nice piece. Mine would be, and we've literally just spoken about it, because it is a hard one. Like, would I just grab the Vectrex because the Vectrex is a whole unit I could just pick up and run out with? Would I pick up the Commodore 64? Yeah, it would be HeroQuest. I'm sorry, my HeroQuest board game, of which I have both the expansions, is fully painted like by me. So it's not just the game. One, the game is very hard to replace, especially complete. It's an expensive board game to get hold of. It has so many memories attached to it. It is fully painted. Even the expansions are fully painted. Every single character in it has been done. And if I had the time to grab it, I would grab that. Because everything else I feel is pretty replaceable. Fairly easily, you know, it's just a cost of it's money, but because I've put time and effort into painting that, would I feel the same way about going back and repainting it and bringing it back to the same order if my original one had burned away? So there's loads of stuff in here I could grab, but if I had the opportunity, it would probably be my copy of HeroQuest. There we go. And now let's all touch wood that never happens.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Vectrex would have probably been my next answer to that.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to get in and out of quickly, isn't it? It's like it's all contained.
It's even got a handle on it. You know?
it's made for that. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Brilliant. Right. Next one. This is a tough question. So this is from Sega Zombie, and it simply says best 16-bit game ever.
Oh God, man,
which is an insane question to ask and answer, because I mean, again, a game pops into my head instantly, so I can go with that game, but it's not exciting. So I'll let you guys think for a second, and I'll throw myself in front of the bus on this one, and I'll go with the game that instantly pops into my head, and it's Street Fighter 2 Turbo. When I think of games that I sank hundreds of hours into, because I only owned a couple of Super Nintendo games, you know, and I dreamt about having it at home when I saw it in the arcade cabs in the cafes and stuff when I did see it out in the wild. And the day that I could play that on the Super Nintendo at Christmas at home, I never went back. I played that game to death. So Street Fighter 2 Turbo, as Chef well knows, because I absolutely annihilated him in the game. But yeah, to me, when you say that game, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, pops into my head, and it is the greatest 16-bit game. To me, you know. Right, Lee, are you ready to answer?
I think so, because I think I'd have to agree with you. You know, because up until it came out in the consoles, I used to play Street Fighter 2 in the arcade quite a bit. So, so I think I'd have to agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of other 16-bit games. In fact, there's a colossal amount of 16-bit games that I love. But I've got to go with what I probably played the most, and it's got to be Street Fighter 2. It's got to be. Whether that be on the Mega Drive or whether it was on the SNES, because I did have it on both. So, yeah, I think probably a close second of that might have been Mortal Kombat, or maybe Mortal Kombat 2. But, you know, yeah, I think it's got to be Street Fighter 2. It's got to be, isn't it?
I thought you might have gone the Streets of Rage route, because you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, again, you know, Streets of Rage 1 and 2 were also great games, but again, I'd still think I'd I think Street Fighter 2 had to come above that. I definitely played them more. Yeah.
Go on, Chef.
A game that I've always gone back to, and when I first got it, I didn't like it because I thought it was too tough. But I appreciated it more as I got older. You know, in my late teens to 20s, was Super Metroid. It super pushes you all the time. And when you first play, you know, you got to level up and get the rockets and da. And at the first time I played it, I was like, "Oh, this game's really tough." I'm like, you know, but the more you went back and chipped away at it, you kind of appreciated the music as well. And in realizing that Samus is actually a woman as well in it, which I was like, "Oh, really?" I think Metroid. It's just one of them games I go back. The same as Revenge of Shinobi is another one I actually always go back to. But Super Metroid is something that for me, 16-bit era is just something. You know, Metroidvania. There's so many games that spun off from that, along with Castlevania.
Yeah. I wonder if that's why, because the way you describe Super Metroid is also kind of how you talk about Mummy Demastered, like that kind of leveling up, going back, fighting your way through. I think you quite like those types of games.
Yeah, I do.
You know,
I've always liked them. You know, and as I've got older, I appreciate them way more.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, as you say, there's so many, isn't there? And what a great era of gaming that was, which is why it's repeated today, right? I mean, how many 16-bit like games do we get as new games today? Still so many, right? And those systems did it so well. Although Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo was far superior to the Mega Drive, just because you only had 3 buttons until someone decided to make a 6-button controller for it.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, Street Fighter 2 Turbo was the reason I bought a SNES. Up until that point, I was Mega Drive through and through. So it was because of that game that I even bought a SNES. Otherwise, I wouldn't have touched one.
Yeah.
You know, it says a lot.
And it almost reinforced the console wars a little bit, wasn't it? Because for Mega Drive, you went Mortal Kombat because you had blood, you had the gore, everything in that.
That's
and then
right.
Street Fighter to me was more synonymous with SNES. You know, and that was almost reinforced the which side of the war was you on? Was you Mega Drive, Mortal Kombat, or was you SNES, Street Fighter? So yeah, tough question, that one.
Yeah.
Right. Ginger Hippie Gamer has come through with one, and he spots, what game do others love that you think or you hate, basically? What game, what's the big game out there that is universally loved by everybody that you are not a fan of?
This is an easy one for me.
It's an easy one for me too, but let's go to Chef first, or maybe something not so easy. Go on, Chef.
Oh wow. Something that people love that I hate. Fortnite. Hate Fortnite.
I think everyone could say Fortnite, couldn't they? I think that's all of us.
I can't think of anything else really that I despise more than Fortnite. I'm sorry, I just can't stand it. Minecraft, maybe.
Minecraft.
I can't stand them.
I think that would be a very sort of unpopular opinion. I think Minecraft's probably one of the largest games in the world at this point, isn't it? And most sold games of all time, I think.
Not for me, mate.
No, fair enough. Lee?
I've kind of got two answers to this, but I'm going to go with one because of the person who asked it. Because the person who asked this, I know, also hates this. Dizzy. I hate Dizzy games. And I know that Si's with me on this. He hates them too. So loads of people love them. I hate them.
Oh,
can't stand them.
Yeah. That's interesting because Dizzy is one of those games that I've just recently picked up both box sets for the Commodore 64, and I do want to go back and give them a try because they were the precursor to the point and click adventure games, right? You know, before you got those, you had the Dizzy game. So I want to go back and see how they've held up. So maybe I'll report back to see if I now hate them, because I definitely played them a lot when I was younger.
They are infuriating games. They are there to drive you nuts. They are. I'm convinced of it. Yeah.
Right, to my game, which is a very unpopular opinion. Well, you may already guess this from what I said earlier, but it's GoldenEye. I think GoldenEye sucks. I think GoldenEye on the N64 is a rubbish game.
Oh my god! How can you say GoldenEye? Oh my god!
It's rubbish, and I can say that quite confidently, coming from an era where in the other side of the world, in the PC land, we had the likes of Quake, Doom, the Medal of Honor game when it first came out. Those games were Castle Wolfenstein, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and you guys over in N64 land had GoldenEye, and yeah, it was rubbish. So there we go. and anyone who goes back to it now and says it's good is lying. The control system was terrible. It just, there we go. That's my answer. And I know
I had loads of enjoyment from GoldenEye, so I can't agree with you. I really can't. I played hours of that around my mates.
My silence speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I told you it'd be an unpopular opinion, but
some of my best memories as a teenager was playing that game with mates. Honestly, yeah.
I feel terrible for you. You should have had a better system.
Weren't mine, but yeah.
Excellent. There we go. Right. The last question is from Owl's Arcade. And he's put, and this will come from his background in obviously arcades from all over the world. He's put, what is the most oddest game you've ever played? And he's put, odd could mean game mechanics, graphics, or storyline. What is the oddest game you've ever played?
Are we talking consoles or just Arcadia?
I think he means anything. Just a game that was just bizarre. What is this game?
Oh wow! I'm just looking down just to see what I've got. Like, I'm trying to think.
There were quite a few, I think. I know an odd game that I think that people seem to love, and I don't even think I can pronounce it properly, but it's the Katamari games where you like roll around and try and make your ball bigger and then roll over bigger things and then roll over bigger. Like, I don't understand how or why those are games that people like. Like, I just find them. I'm trying to think of what the full name is. Like Katamari. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? The Katamari games. They are very, very odd. The main character is almost like a character from like the Mighty Boosh, the guy with a door in his head, from the Mighty Boosh TV series, and they're just odd. But people seem to love them. They are played by a lot of people, but they are some super weird games. Right, hopefully I filled enough, guys, because if you don't speak, this podcast goes terribly. But Lee, have you got an odd game you want to talk about?
Again, I suppose with mine it'll probably be a series, and it's because I don't get it. Right, Pokemon. I don't get Pokemon games. I don't know why people go so mad about them. I don't get them. Like, isn't that animal cruelty anyway? Like trapping an animal, like, and then making it fight. That's animal cruelty, right? Like, I just don't get it. Like, when I see people playing, they get so excited and they're so passionate, and I'm like, I literally don't understand any of this. Like, what is this? You know? Oh, mate, honestly, I don't get it. I really don't. Can someone explain it to me? Do you either, you know?
I don't know, but I know that they are massive games. Obviously, I think just people wandering the land, catching Pokemon, training them, leveling them up, then fighting them. But yeah, they are bizarre games, obviously. But yeah, Chef, what about yourself? Any weird and wonderful games out there?
The game I never spend any time is, I know it's not a weird game, but it's all of the FIFA games, all the ones on the newer systems. I've just never got on with them. I've never FIFA 95 and FIFA, you know, on the original Super Nintendo I used to play. All these new ones now where they've got the cards and the leveling up and you're paying for money and you're paying for this. I never got on with any of that kind of stuff. And there's been, obviously, every year there's a new one that comes out and they're all trying to milk money off you. It's not really a weird game, I guess, but to me it's weird because it's near enough the same game within reason. The last couple of years they've just updated the players, and I just think it's just I don't know, that doesn't work for me.
Yes, it is weird that people are willing to pay £60 to £70 a year for what should just be a roster update, right? I mean, surely the game's the same.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's that is, and yet people do in the millions. Those games sell ridiculous amounts every year, and they're literally buying names on sprites. Like it's not the actual players there. It's like it's literally the same character from last year. They've just got a new update or they're wearing a new shirt. So, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, on PlayStation 5, they have made, like, on even PS4, they made slight changes, but the Switch version has literally been what you just said, which is literally a roster update. The game has been exactly the same. Like, they haven't changed anything for years. But, you know, PS4 and that, they did make some slight changes to it because Connor's always been buying them every year, and there are subtle differences. In fact,
Yeah.
at points, they change things sometimes to a point where they break the game sometimes. But the Switch version has literally been the same version for years. So yeah.
I know I had to look this up quickly whilst you were talking. I remember there being, I think it was Metal Jesus or someone did a video on this game. It was on the Dreamcast and it was called Seaman, and it is basically a fish with a human face, and you teach it things. And it was the most weirdest thing I think I've ever seen. But apparently it's a big game on the Dreamcast. In fact, people that own, I wonder if Sega Zombie actually owns this game, because I assume he has a full Dreamcast set. This game must be in his collection, so maybe he can talk to us about it one day. But yeah, have a look if you want to look at the game Seaman, and it sounds as bad as I'm saying it, but it's on the Dreamcast, and it is a real game where you have a fish with a human face, and you teach it things and train it, and you can speak to it and all this sorts of stuff. And it's a genuine game on the Dreamcast. I think that's probably the weirdest game I've ever seen on a system. Yeah, because it's pretty freaky when you look it up. But those people out there with full Dreamcast sets will own this game. So,
My God, I've just looked it up. Oh my God. That's the stuff of nightmares, that is, isn't it?
It is. So, yeah, we'll have to talk to those people out there that we know that own this and find out what on earth it's about. So, yeah.
Not a good name either, is it? It really isn't.
It hasn't aged well. Well, I suppose it didn't age well. It never aged well, but it kind of is not a game you can talk about in public, although I just did it on a podcast, so there we go.
Can you imagine that? Have you seen Seaman? Yeah, earlier on today.
Yeah. That's why I made sure to emphasize the two words rather than the one word. It's Seaman. That's why I did it that way. Yes. So there we go, guys. We have just made it through 27 questions, which I think is pretty awesome that we got there. We have run slightly longer than normal, but I think that's okay. Hopefully this was enjoyable for everyone. So what I think would be nice is if we wrap up, maybe we can quickly go around the room and just ask what everyone's up to. So Nerdy Geezer, I'll come to you first. What are you up to?
I haven't really thought ahead on that, if I'm honest. I haven't really got anything planned. I know at some point I need to do a pickups video because I've picked up, but this will be on my movie channel side of things because I've picked up a lot of films recently. I've got a few games, but not enough to do a video, I don't think. I've not really give it much thought, if I'm honest. I really haven't. Yeah.
That's all right. That's okay. You normally quite spontaneous, aren't you? So like, something will come up in the movie media, or so, a new game will come through or something, and you'll kind of go, you know what, I'm going to do a video on this, and you'll do it rather than planning weeks and months ahead. So I think that's fair enough, and that's what we like about it. So it's all good. So I'm going to come to you last because you've got good things to talk about. Myself, I am continuing with Monday Night Retro. I have promised a whole new look and feel, and that is on its way. Obviously, the podcast will continue to go. This is the first of 2025. I have promised in my last updates video to do more pickup stuff and just more things in general. So there is lots more to come. Obviously, I very kindly had Al's Arcade come and do a room tour, which has gone down very well over on Al's Arcade's channel. I'll stick a link below again to that. That was really awesome. So hopefully stay tuned to those things. Now I'm going to pass over to Chef. Because Chef's got something big happening this Sunday 26th. Tell us all about it, Chef.
So after one whole year of being away from any kind of real live streams of what I used to be doing, other than the stuff with you guys, Swap Shop returns, which is going to be awesome. I had lots of people messaging me over the year asking when it's coming back, and I had about 9 different tubers messaging me saying, "Look, Chef, I've got things to sell. I want to get on it." So I thought I would bring it back for 2025. So Sunday the 26th, 8 p.m, live from God Country, Essex, will be Swap Shop, and we have got a good set of tubers on who've told me they've got lots of stuff. So probably lots of FIFAs and Tetrises to be sold. But regardless, it's going to be a monumentous live stream. And I can't wait to do it. A bit nervous, I'm not going to lie, because it's been a time since I've been in charge of a stream and playing around with videos and cutscenes and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it because it's been a long time since I've done it.
Brilliant. And Chef, just for those people that might be listening to this post of the 26th of January,
Yes.
what is the plan? Is it going to be a monthly stream like last week of every month, or is there sort of a schedule?
We're going to continue with the last Sunday of every month, unless for some reason I can't do one, but I'm going to plan to do the last Sunday of every month, 8 p.m, like I used to do before, throughout the year, and continue it until, who knows, until it gets bought out by Amazon, like Lee said.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, look, hopefully if you're listening to this, I'll drop a link below to Chef's channel, which is always in there anyway, so you can always find all of our channels in the links below. Yeah, even if you don't go and watch the stream with the intention to buying stuff, it's always a great crack. There's always some really funny people on there, and the banter's always good. The stuff is always good. And even if you just go there to make some connections with others in the community, we talked about the retro community earlier, and I think this is one of those nice ways that people do come together. They leave the attitudes at the door, and it's actually just a good fun time for everyone, right? It's
definitely.
it's
and also, if people want to talk to us, we'll be in the chat.
We will be.
True story.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So yeah,
absolutely. So there we go. That is our first episode for 2025, episode 4. I quite like this. I think this is probably going to be maybe an annual thing, really, a sort of ask me anything type thing. And I think obviously we'll get back to the normal format. So we'll have episode 5, of 2025 in February. But yeah, any thoughts on this? Give us some comments below. If there's some questions you want to challenge us on, or thoughts if you want to ask some of these questions yourself in the comments, then please do. Tell us what your favorite game soundtrack is, what your favorite 16-bit game was. Continue to reinforce why the Commodore 64 is the best 8-bit processor computer. All of these things that you've heard us talk about. Give us your comments, give us your feedback. It's always useful. We'll always answer it. We'll always listen, and it helps us mold future episodes of this podcast. So, brilliant. So all I've got to do now is say thank you very much, gentlemen. That was a great chat, and thank you very much for answering all the questions. And also thank you to everyone who sent a question in. This show wouldn't have existed otherwise. So, thanks for that. That was really good.
Some good questions.
Yeah, awesome. Right, guys, let's say goodbye, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye all.
Take care.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye.